what they didn't tell you about Project Hail Mary. Like the clickbait? I hate that stuff. But I do keep seeing positive video reviews of this movie, and none of them talk about how this mother drags. I got 8.5 hours of sleep and I was yawning several times in this movie. And it is a non-stop open mic night for Ryan Gosling. You thought Ryan Reynolds had a shtick. Well, Canada's other famous Ryan has one too.
You might want to look away for this.
Or at least that's how he's directed in this movie. Just as the ghost of Mary Shelley takes over the body of Jessie Buckley in The Bride, the ghost of the Honorable Jerry Lewis takes over Ryan Gosling in this piece. But it's not all bad. And if you're looking for a competent, mild-mannered, family-friendly night out, then strap on your popcorn feed bag and get ready for some comforting Canadian charm, a rocky space alien, and all the uplifting arena rock, champagne supernova, spiritual African drums, kumbaya you can handle. Project Hail Mary. Certainly it was a lot more than I could handle. I reached my spiritual choir quota for the year. I'll give a brief summary of the first act and no spoilers. We open with Ryan Gosling's character Grace waking up in the ship, the Hail Mary. Hail Mary is full of grace. Yeah, cute. You know, it's appropriate because that's the tone of the movie. He awakens from cryo-sleep stasis, doesn't know where he is, he's alone on the ship, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I like this. In media res, let's get to it. Let's get right into the story. Hold your horses. They are gonna intercut backstory throughout the movie, showing him as a teacher, STEM, getting recruited/kidnapped by some government agency that is all the governments. Literally what his bodyguard/Secret Service looking kidnapper tells a lady at checkout at Home Depot when they buy a bunch of stuff. He's like, I get a government discount, and then she unlikely asks which government. Who would ask that? Wouldn't you assume it's the United States government since that's the country you're in? And then he says, all the governments.
You sure about that?
Okay, it's kind of a funny line. It's an unrealistic setup. But what are you talking about? The UN? First of all, give me a break. Are you telling me the UN actually has some reach, some pull in the US? Now this sci-fi adventure has turned into a fantasy film as well. He wears an American patch on his spacesuit, so I'm guessing he's an American, but what is this international government agency? Whatever. We learn that these little space gnats, astrophages, are eating the sun, basically, and the universe is infested with them.
I live with roaches, about 10 of them.
They're doing this all throughout the galaxy, except for the star Tau Ceti in the Cetus system. So the agency is sending a 3-astronaut crew on a suicide mission. It's a one-way ticket to Tau Ceti to see just why in the Sam Hill it's not being affected. And as you've seen in the trailer, which I was disappointed they revealed, it would have been more fun to learn this in the film, there's an alien whose world is also affected by this, and they're here also to solve this galactic puzzle. So for most of the story, what you basically have is a buddy movie with Ryan Gosling and his alien pal Rocky. We do learn in the movie that Gosling's character Grace doesn't want to go on the mission, setting up a character flaw where he struggles to maintain a relationship with other people and then lacking the determination to give oneself for others. One thing I really liked about the movie was showing humans working with another alien species to solve a complex intergalactic problem and overcome their differences. Now, this really didn't show any differences because, again, a feel-good family movie, but it reminded me of the kind of story that you'd get on well-written Star Trek. Not, here's another bad guy that must die. And I love me some there's a bad guy who must die stories. But I think that's part of the problem where Star Trek doesn't really know where to go. Future video to follow. And it looks great. The production design, the alien concept, the photography. Amazing the times we live in where when they put their minds to it and hire creatives with a vision, they can make even the worst idea for a Star Trek show look great.
I think I swallowed my com badge.
Already?
But the writing? The writing has always been a crapshoot in movies. Cat Ballou, anyone?
The Ballad of Cat Ballou. Is this the way to make a funny movie?
You bet it is.
But at least they were trying. The past 10 years, it seems like they fired all the people who were trying. The writers for Project Hail Mary know where to take the story, how to build connection, build a friendship, develop the relationship, and pay it off. The prime rib. But unfortunately, they mix it with a lot of genetically modified tripe. Here's my main problem. There's like 25 minutes of story here, and the movie is over 2.5 hours long. You could have easily cut 45 minutes to an hour out of this thing and it would only improve it. There's 25 minutes of story, 10 minutes of solemn, wondrous moments, 5 minutes of sad moments, and 90 minutes of Homer Simpson in space, wine mom and dad bod jokes. But that's what makes for a family-friendly good time. So if that's your thing,
Please help yourselves to this tripe.
as I said, it drags in some parts, and unless you're a fan of non-stop jokey jokes for joke's sake, it double drags. The goofy non-stop jokes were part of what killed Marvel movies, and they don't help here. Yes, some of it's funny, and Gosling does them well, and he's a charming actor. But at a certain point, you start to see them coming before they land. You start predicting them because you've seen how the movie is being told. And the non-stop clowning undermines the drama and gravity, no pun, they are trying to instill. The drama and the gravity, the stakes the character faces, are what will endear us to the character and have us walking away, loving the movie and talking about the character. But not when you constantly undercut the character's integrity by making him a laughingstock. This movie's ostensibly about saving Earth, and it didn't feel that way. It was more like bosom buddies in outer space without the cross-dressing. This movie is pure social media generation. Not 1 second goes by where you aren't being held by the hand, led by what you should feel, by the wall-to-wall scoring and soundtrack and the endless jokes. They constantly must feed you an entertaining dopamine hit. Yes, movies are entertainment, but you are supposed to suspend your disbelief and get lost in the world, in the reality of the movie. And here it's an endless stream of jokes, gags, intercut with an occasional uplifting pop anthem to cushion the few bits of actual drama. Is it woke? I'll call it quietly woke. It wasn't the bride in your face woke, but it was a little woke. It had a zhuzh of woke, passively woke. I'll call it quietly woke. There's one white dude and he must constantly supplicate himself, appear non-threatening, pliant, self-deprecating, and downright bumbling to everyone else who is not a white male. Everyone else, by contrast, acts like a normal human being, with the exception of the stern, overly humorless German head of the project, played by Sandra Hüller. In her defense, if I had to deal with this act that makes Jerry Lewis look like Clint Eastwood, I'd be a giant bottle of taciturn schnitzel too. Jawohl.
That's what I figured.
Otherwise, this is a feel-good, safe for the family, inoffensive, mildly humorous, quietly woke, unchallenging 2.5-hour buddy movie with Ryan Gosling and a rock spider. And when it's not beating you over the head with goofy jokes, champagne supernova, and STEM, it's providing a mildly entertaining space adventure. I really don't want to be cynical about this. It's bland, happy, feel-good content.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I personally can just only take so much sitcom humor, and I reached my limit about 5 minutes into this piece. That said, yes, it's better than most of what comes out of Hollywood today. So I can't unrecommend it. The visuals are worth seeing on the big screen. But the drama is strictly made for TV. If you're interested in a similar type movie where the stakes feel a little more intense, see if you can get your hands on Silent Running from 1972, the directorial debut of Douglas Trumbull, the man who created special effects for 2001, Close Encounters, Star Trek the Motion Picture, and one of my favorites, Blade Runner. I mean, what a resume that is. The movie stars Bruce Dern and a couple of robots that are attempting to save those beautiful California redwoods. It's a great low-budget sci-fi flick that I believe was recently released in 4K. Now, here is one spoiler. I got one question. How does Rocky understand Grace? He doesn't have a translating computer for himself, and half the time the computer isn't on screen, and yet we see Grace and Rocky carry on conversations like they both got vocal cords and a universal translator.
Most illogical.
And also, I don't know who this is gonna anger, but I wonder the outrage if this character were not played by a white dude, if it was a woman or non-white person who was knocked down, restrained, drugged, and sent on a suicide mission against their will. Now, Grace's, let's call it, reticence to go on the mission and save humanity does set up a nice character arc for later in the film. But if any other demographic had this done to them, this film would have received the HAL 9000 treatment.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Thanks for clicking in. And so, if you wouldn't mind, if you could hit like and subscribe, it would really help. I hate having to ask, and I bet you hate hearing it. I know I do. I'm sick of hearing it.
Blah, 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 blah.
But it's how the whole thing works,
And when the machine breaks down, we break down.
so I'm gonna have to go ahead and ask.
Pretty please, with sugar on top.
Hit the fucking like and subscribe. Thank you.